All right. So, I told you all that I wouldn't be here. But we're starting new content. Since we finished up the sketchy scene. So you're going on to 112 reliable witnesses, but you're going to focus more so on your notes. So I've updated your notes in the slideshow, and also you can go and play this video. So going into our presentation. The first, so in this section, you'll see that we'll start conducting interviews and also doing polygraph information. So it starts off with investigative interviews, and those are initial investigations that have revealed 5 persons of interest in the mysterious death of Anna Garcia. A person of interest is someone who law enforcement thinks may have information related to a possible crime. Law enforcement thinks that some or all of these individuals may have information about her death that will help them piece together the timeline and story of what happened to Anna. So get to know the interest on the next slide. So again, it's 5 people. The first one is Eric Piedmont. He's 20 years old. He's Anna's boyfriend. And friends noted that Anna and Eric were recently seen arguing, but they seem to have reconciled. And reconcile means to get back together. The second person is Dominique Hall. She's 19 years old and she's Anna's classmate. It is well known that Dominique and Anna were highly competitive. Anna recently won a prestigious scholarship that Dominique wanted. The third person is Taylor Diaz, and if you remember, that is the person who called in and said that he found Anna's body. So he's 19 years old. He's Anna's friends. Taylor found Anna dead in the research lab and notified law enforcement. The person at the bottom, the older lady, that's Dr. Elsie Opal. She's 50 years old, professor and Anna's advisor. Anna and Dr. Opal seem to have a friendly working relationship. However, Dr. Opal recently declined to write a recommendation letter for Anna's scholarship application. And then the last person is Sam Green, and she's 20 years old, and she's Anna's soccer teammate. Sam was recently seen arguing with Anna after a soccer tournament when Sam blamed Anna for their loss. Anna also collided with Sam during a recent soccer practice. So, just based off of these things, we learned some new information about Anna Garcia. So we now know that she has a boyfriend. She recently won a scholarship. Um, and we also know that she plays soccer now. So these are the 5 persons of interest that the detectives feel like they may know something with regards to her or her death. So then you have to talk about like going into the polygraph and all of that stuff. So how do you detect deception? So if you look at people and they take polygraph information, it's like, but how do you know if a person is lying? So biological reactions to stimuli, and a stimuli is something that occurs, that triggers, that can be felt, detected, and or measured are known as our physiological response. Many of these physiological responses are involuntary, meaning we cannot directly control them. Some terminology is polygraph tests, commonly known as a lie detector test, are sometimes used in forensic cases to help determine the truthfulness of someone who may be connected to a possible crime. Polygraph tests are also often used in employment screenings and background checks for law enforcement personnel and government workers. So the word polygraph is made up of 2 words. Poly means many, so think about like in math, polygons and things of that nature. Polygraphs use many sensors to monitor data. A graph means write or written, so a graph is what the machine produces to display the recorded data. Polygraphs use multiple sensors and computer software to record data and display data. The sensors record physiological changes in heart, blood pressure, respiration rate, skin conductivity, and or perspiration. So with regards to physiological responses, so detecting a change in any of the biological activities may indicate that an individual is lying. This data is also combined with observations about verbal cues, body language, and attitude or temperament to try to pinpoint whether an individual is being honest. So the first thing is the heart rate. That's how many times your heart beats in 1 minute. Then it's blood pressure, the blood pressure exerted by the blood upon the walls of the blood vessels. The third is your respiration rate, so how many breaths you take in 1 minute. And then the fourth is skin conductivity, so how the amount of sweat produced impacts the ability to conduct electricity. So think about when you know somebody's lying. A lot of times their heart will start beating fast, or even if you were lying to your parents or whoever, a lot of time your blood pressure may elevate. Your breathing kind of may either slow down or speed up. And then as far as your skin, you may start sweating because you're trying to keep up the lie. So in order to try to get the most accurate results for the polygraph, you have to establish a baseline. So during a polygraph test, a trained polygraph examiner starts by asking the subject a series of yes and no questions to which the answers are known, such as name, age, and today's date. Because, I mean, if you ask somebody those questions, it would really be no need for them to lie. So the physiological responses collected during this round of questioning establish a baseline for the subject's vital signs. This baseline data serves as a control or reference data on how the subject's body responds physiologically when they are telling the truth. So going back to the control group, that's the group in an experiment where the independent variable being tested is not applied. So the control group serves as a standard for comparison against the experimental group where the independent variable is applied. So you would compare these baseline questions, which would be your control group, to other questions that you would ask, and you would compare how the person's respiration rate is or heart rate is compared to when you were asking them those baseline questions to see if you can detect some deception based off of their reaction. So then you got to put it all together, right? So we got to get it done. So when questioning is complete, the polygraph examiner compares the data from the inquiry phase to the control baseline data to look for changes that might indicate that the subject is lying or points to their complication in a possible crime. So currently polygraphs are not admissible in court, so that means that they cannot be used because there is no clear and strong research that supports the validity of polygraph tests. This is because there is no absolute sign that definitively notes whether a person is telling the truth. A guilty person may appear calm and unanxious even while lying, and the polygraph would not find any changes in their physiological responses. A non-guilty person may be quite nervous during an interview, and their physiological responses would reflect that even though they are being honest. So while polygraphs are not admissible in court as evidence, they're still used as an interrogation method, and they are also commonly used in employment screenings and background checks for law enforcement personnel and government workers. And then you have a video to watch about experimental design and what that is entail. Also, while you are going into the PLTW course, just to look over some things, be sure to check out this model. And it shows the interaction between breathing and a beating heart. So you'll notice that there's going to be a connection between the heart and the lungs. So your respiratory system works with the cardiovascular system to take in oxygen and to deliver it to cells throughout the body and remove carbon dioxide waste. Your lungs inhale and exhale to take in oxygen and expel carbon dioxide. Every beat of your heart sends blood through your vessels to your tissues, delivering essential oxygen and taking away carbon dioxide. Changes in heart rate influence the amount of blood being pumped to your tissues. So a faster heart rate means more blood is being pumped, and your respiratory rate will also increase to accommodate this increased need for oxygen. Physical activity and stress or anxiety can cause your heart rate and respiratory rate to increase. So when going back to that about the deception and the polygraph data, so if your heart rate is increasing, that means your respiratory rate or your breathing is also increasing. So those are signs that there may be some deception there. You're not turning in anything yet. These are all, like I said, just your notes. Remember, I'm not going to be here, so just keep in mind everything that you are doing for tomorrow, and it will be in the announcement section. So that's it. Have a good night.